All right, welcome to another pre-recorded Aftershock. I am super excited about this conversation. Almost a couple years in the making now. The former editor-in-chief of Quakes Epicenter, for those of you who don't know him. Also the creator of a podcast that Alex and I were a part of for a couple years, Black and Azul, Joel Soria. Joel, it's been a little while. How are you doing? It's good to get a chance to catch up with you. It took Lionel Messi joining MLS to make this conversation happen, huh?
Jamon, it did take a little bit of Messi FOMO to bring me back to a familiar place that gave so much to me and so much to us. Just super excited to be back and chat with you a little bit about Messi's arrival to MLS and also chat some Quakes.
Yeah, well, before we do that, let's get into you. It's been a couple years, and from time to time, it's always necessary for people to take a step back. You were very heavy into the Quakes beat, heart and soul. I got to witness it day in and day out. You were into that beat. It was something you took very, very seriously. And with the pandemic, it brought new challenges to all of us. Some of them in a very personal way. What have you been doing? Update the fans as to what's going on with Joel Soria now.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Jamie, I mean, this was a dream that started when I was in college. I never thought that it would take me to the places where I was able to be. And yeah, it was grueling at times. We're talking about 7-day work weeks, blending, this passion project with, a 9 to 5, a salary job. And, it took a toll on me. And, the pandemic also obviously did shift a lot of professional responsibilities in this space that, and coupled with, some personal losses that, just made it very clear to me that I needed to take a step back. I see it now as a professional hiatus, and, I'm more than ready to come back at a level that I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. I don't know from what angle specifically just yet. But hey, this is step one. Super happy to be here. I haven't shied away from soccer at all. It's my lifelong passion. I still keep tabs here and there on the Quakes, MLS, and obviously soccer at large on a national and international basis. So just super happy to be here with you. And let's get to this Messi news because it was a lot.
Yeah, it definitely was a lot. Got a chance to talk to Luchi Gonzalez today. He's someone who grew up in the Miami area and, was very excited that the club was started there, Inter Miami. And now that club is the focus of the soccer world. Lionel Messi passing up the opportunity to probably make over $1 billion and play in Saudi Arabia, passing up the opportunity and all the unknowns that would go with kind of, I think, the financial situation at Barcelona to return there. Could maybe have, opted to return to Argentina and gone back to his boyhood club, I guess, but ultimately decides to join David Beckham's project, another person who came to MLS and made a big splash a few years back, but this is at a different scale, Joel. Like Lionel Messi is maybe arguably the most recognizable athlete in the world. Certainly has more Instagram followers, I think, than anybody else. What's your take?
I think it's really hard for even the people closest to Inter Miami or the bigger reporters in the MLS world to really wrap their head around this type of news. I mean, it's monumental. It's really revolutionizing in a way that we won't really be able to quantify until that chapter of his career ends, whether that be in 2, 3, 4 years. We really don't know. He turns 36 very soon. But yeah, what a massive coup for Major League Soccer. I mean, you're bringing in the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest soccer player of all time, certainly of our era, of our most modern era, who's going to be coming into a market that really just makes a lot of sense for him and the people around him, and obviously the club in Miami, Inter Miami. it's again, it's almost unexplainable at this point because, as you were mentioning, his intent was always to stay in Europe and to sort of end, his fairy tale career with Barcelona, the club that made him the club of his life, of his dreams. The fiasco that they have going on over there was not going to allow him to go back, unfortunately. And as you mentioned, Saudis were willing to pay a reported 1.6 billion for his services over the span of 3 years. I mean, we're just talking about him showing up to Saudi Arabia, training, and just playing soccer. Just kicking the ball around for 1.6 billion dollars. That is a monstrous deal. But I think really that this package that Inter Miami was able to put together, that Major League Soccer was able to put together, may not be as far off to that 1.6 billion as most people may think. You talk about the profit shares that he's going to have coming from Apple, Apple Plus, and the Apple Plus deal that they have with Major League Soccer, and also the commercial deal that Major League Soccer has with Adidas, which was extended for another, I think, 6 to 7 or 8 years for a reported $830 million, I believe. I mean, those are both monstrous deals as well, and for Messi to be able to get a slice of that pie, I think it makes it to where Messi may not be leaving too much behind by not going to Saudi. It's just, I think it's a win-win for everyone involved, and it really legitimizes Major League Soccer on a commercial standpoint and also on a sporting side of things.
Now, there are a lot of questions that, if I look ahead to the 2026 World Cup, one of the reasons, the big reasons that Apple decided to get into this deal with Major League Soccer was because you have that opportunity of 2026 and really kind of taking MLS to a whole new level. Signing Messi probably was always there, I would have to imagine, in the negotiations, in some of the discussions of like, well, what if we got this level of player to come and really bring that attention into Major League Soccer, really turn this Apple TV deal, which they've said is a worldwide deal, but now the eyes of the world will actually be on MLS. Certainly this has to be exactly what Apple TV wanted. Not only that, the day before announced a documentary, a 4-part series, if I remember right, about Messi and about winning the World Cup with Argentina. All of this seems kind of tailor made for something that is going to be extra special for the United States and Canada and even Mexico with Leagues Cup, and expecting that Messi, if not this year, maybe in future years, would appear in that tournament, and the combination of all three countries being able to host the World Cup. There's just so much here in terms of storyline and what this means in the North American, and specifically, I think, the American soccer landscape. For the extent you've been able to think about it so far and process this, because there's a lot to process here, where's your mind right now in all this?
I think that when I think about this, what really, sticks with me is the timing. I think the timing of it all is super coincidental. I mean, we're talking about United States being the country as a whole being in a position on a soccer end of things where they can actually finally turn that corner and really accelerate the sport and mainstream the sport in ways that they've been wanting to do for 40, 50 years but haven't been able to, because the commercial and the sporting and the marketing side of things have never really haven't been on the same page or on a similar level. And to be ready to go all in on the commercial and marketing side and now having the sporting side, thanks to Lionel Messi's career on a tail end and him being a free agent and willing to listen to offers that were coming from, America, from Major League Soccer clubs, specifically obviously Inter Miami. I think it just I think the time I think the officials realized that the time to pounce was now. This is really when you have to be willing to sacrifice it all in order to propel the sport domestically to an unprecedented level, to where they've always wanted it to be, which is competing with the likes of American football and basketball and even baseball, right? That's always been the objective, is to grow and to mainstream it as much as possible. And with, as you mentioned, the 2026 World Cup coming to North America, predominantly featuring here in the United States, and with the 2024 Copa America also coming to our backyard, I think it really makes a lot of sense from a macro standpoint, right? To really just go all in and bring in a figure like Lionel Messi, that he may be a once in a lifetime player, and the way that he is really able to to shape landscapes, the way that he's able to generate numbers, is unlike anything that they'd be able to find anywhere else, maybe outside of Cristiano Ronaldo. But even then, Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't necessarily have that shine no more, given that Messi was able to lift the cup just a couple of months ago.
Yeah, you mentioned Ronaldo, and back in Black and Azul, we didn't shy from controversial topics. We took them
Right.
head on, and so there is a bit of controversy these days. It seems like there are players who are opting to take money in places like Saudi Arabia, which rubs a lot of people the wrong way. They call it sports washing because of the way that these maybe oil barons are throwing around their money and trying to influence sports in a lot of different ways, coming into the Premier League and buying clubs, or also Live Golf and its relationship with the PGA Tour, and now apparently merging. There's been a lot of accusational almost tone to some of this type of thing, and we've seen players that have taken the money to be able to go play in places like that. Was this the real, not to say last opportunity, but the opportunity that really had the most potential to kind of change that particular direction of things, and to try to bring the focus a little bit more back to the American side? But not to shy away from the American side of this, because even American entrepreneurs are going in and disrupting leagues like the Premier League as well. So I'm not going to say one's the white hats and one's the black hats here, but there is I think this kind of controversy of over commercialization that can happen from all this. Where do you sit in terms of these types of topics?
Well, it's a very delicate topic. I think that the Saudis shelling billions of dollars into mainstream sports can be viewed as a concerning play from their end. I mean, we obviously know their ties, their global ties, and the ways that they are trying to influence now the masses by consuming these these entities, these strong entities within the sport, whether it be a club like Newcastle, or whether it be signing Benzema, Ronaldo, and Conte in a matter of months, right? On the American end, what I'd say is I think it's really just, I think it really all boils down to the timing and to the position that the American soccer landscape is currently in, right? As I was mentioning, the American landscape had been bubbling for some time, and was praying that a moment like this would really show up. and the moment showed up, right? If it wasn't for the financial fiasco in Barcelona, I don't think we'd be talking about this right now. A lot of credit has been given to David Beckham. I applaud David Beckham for, the way that he was able to trailblaze in Major League Soccer, and the way that he was able to influence the sport and accelerate the growth of the sport in America. But really, what this all boils down to is, you know, Barcelona's inefficiency to sign Lionel Messi, and Lionel Messi willing to listen to, this proposal from Major League Soccer and Inter Miami. And I think on a personal level, on a social level, it makes a lot of sense for Messi, right? He comes to this country um, as, the leading figure in the soccer world. He comes into this country as another Latino. We have a very, very strong Latino presence in this country, and more so in Miami. And so I really just think that it makes sense for Messi and for Major League Soccer to to accept that agreement and to commercialize it as much as possible. I don't really think that it has many shades of what the Saudis are doing in their home country by luring global superstars. I think this is a completely separate negotiation with different variables at play. I don't see the parallels, but I do think it's really interesting how there's an unofficial arms race going on, right? Where
Right.
you have the Saudis, I mean, more than willing, and I'm sure they're going to continue shelling out millions and millions of dollars on trying to tighten their grip in modern sports. But you will also have just this one massive deal in America that will potentially change, the global soccer landscape forever. I mean, it was only going to just take one massive deal, and that deal was landing Lionel Messi, and it happens. And so now I guess we just wait and see how it ends up, playing out. But it super super interesting.
I don't want to take you surprised by this question because it wasn't really on our agenda, but it's something it's come across my mind a couple of times, and as you were talking there, it did again. This isn't the first time the biggest soccer player in the world has made his way to American shores. It also happened back in the 70s with Pele, right? Do you have any perspective on that? I mean, I was maybe just born, when Pele was over here. You for sure not, because you're way younger than me. But just in terms of historical perspective and what you know about Pele's time, are there parallels that can be drawn from that time that Pele was here? Because obviously now with the kind of the internet age, the television age, the accessibility of Messi as a product just feels significantly more than the accessibility, let's say, of Pele in the 70s in a limited capacity, although big at the time, a limited capacity in the NASL with the New York Cosmos. What's your perception?
I think they both bring, large cases of euphoria with them. I think that, they both, have the pedigree and the reach to disrupt markets and to garner anyone's attention, even those who aren't really into sports or into soccer. I mean, these are leading global figures that have impacts on all ends of society, whether it be on a sporting end or a social end. Everyone's going to shut up and listen to what Pele or Messi have to say. I think that there are lots of parallels, but as you mentioned, the I think that the timing, the timeline here is what really separates, the gratitude of each signing and each arrival. Where we're at in terms of globalization and connectivity on a global scale is, I mean, it just blows, the sort of the ecosystem in the 70s, right? Um, and so I think on that end, you can't really draw comparisons. On a sporting end, I think a lot of people would still argue that Pelé is the greatest player of all time. I think I would say that it's not up for debate, but I'm sure that many would disagree with someone who was born 25, almost 30 years after he came to America. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm the most qualified person for this conversation, but I mean, no, it's just as historic, if not more historic than Pele's arrival to NASL. I mean, you got to keep in mind that the soccer landscape at that time was minuscule to what it is today. We in today's day we have multi-million-dollar stadiums, we have multi-million-dollar facilities, commercial deals on an apparel front, on a streaming television front, social media, another huge vehicle for reach and audience impact. This is again, it's really, 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 really hard to quantify, the impacts and the effects that Messi is going to have in our country, in our country's soccer. I would dare to say that it's a bigger arrival than Pele's, but I'm sure again it's up for debate. Nonetheless, both massive, both eternal figures that will never die and that will live on forever. Just really interested in how this ends up playing out and how long Messi's how long his stay in America will be and how he will close this chapter. But I guess in the meantime we have to enjoy it.
So obviously this is a Quakes oriented show, and the Quakes are no longer your beat. But I hope you have had a chance to check in on the team a little bit this season. I've really enjoyed the Quakes under Luchi Gonzalez, and specifically because Luchi Gonzalez as a person to me is just feels like a high character individual. We've seen how he's responded to situations of adversity when there were the accusations of a racist remark, in New York earlier this season, and how he and the team dealt with that kind of situation. I really appreciate that. One of the other amazing things about him is how he's equally bilingual in English and Spanish, and the kind of influence that can have on a team and the players to always feel like they're part of the first class citizenry of a team. I don't underestimate that, particularly, as a Latino person, but someone who's obviously extremely, fluent in English as well. What is your perception so far of Luchi Gonzalez and the progress so far that you've seen, from a distance in terms of the 2023 San Jose Earthquakes?
Yeah, I think he was the right acquisition for the San Jose Earthquakes, especially after Almeida's departure. I think it made a lot of sense for Leach, who I think is also a proper fit for a GM at any club in this league. For them to bring Luchi Gonzalez on, as you mentioned, a very respectable figure in the MLS circles, a former player with high integrity and a very, very professional character. I think it really makes sense to have brought him on and to start this new era of the Quakes, an era I think that is going to emphasize the homegrown to pro pipeline, that is going to be people first, and that at the end of the day is going to go for improvements and results. I am not too well connected on the day to day or even the season trends as of now, but I think that obviously, as the standings show, the Quakes are in a much better position than they were, a year or two ago. So, on that end, I think that the Quakes. I'm sure Quakes fans are in a much better place.
Well, let's get into a topic that you and I can debate probably eternally, which is a player by the name of Cade Cowell. Cade came into the team, while you were covering the team. Certainly there has been, this kind of hockey stick effect with him where you could see that potential from the very beginning, but it always feels like trying to catch up to potential. But more recently with the U20 World Cup and the performances there, you can really see that when Cade is confident, when he feels that there's a game that he can kind of dictate, that skill that he's got is a next level skill. Scoring 3 goals in 4 games in the U20 World Cup, and looking quite dominant at times by many metrics, the best player in the tournament, at least through the group stage. Where do you see Cade Cowell now? I had a chance to talk to him earlier today, and the rumors of a move to Europe certainly persist, potentially in the secondary transfer window. He said earlier this season that he felt like he was ready for such a move. Chris Leach even didn't mince words, talking with Goal.com, saying that it might be in the cards this season as well. In your opinion, from what you've seen of Cade and his progress, do you think he's ready for Europe, or where do you think he's at now?
Well, it's no surprise that I've always been a Cade believer. I think he has all the tools and the mentality to flourish in a top European league, and most certainly in Major League Soccer. But I think it all really just comes down to environment, and also the style of play that he's playing under. I personally did catch a bit of his play in this latest U20 World Cup group stage, and I was impressed. Obviously, it was a really really impactful 4 games that he had, scoring 4 goals.
3 goals, yeah.
3 goals, electric goals at that, and
Yes.
lots of missed opportunities. That just a matter of inches, and he could have scored maybe 6 or 7 goals.
I think he hit the post 3 times too. Might
I
have even been 4.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, a player with so much potential, the Earthquakes organization has never had the luxury of having a youngster with the capacities that Cade has. And you know I think he's reaching a point where he really has to contemplate whether or not he wants to make that next step. Um, as you mentioned, he's determined to make that next step, to take that next step. But as we know, the club also has to be on board. And I think that following an event like the one that he was a part of, I think that this presents to be a great juncture for the club to look for a new home for him, and capitalize on that ROI. Right? They placed a lot of trust in him. I think that off the pitch, he's been able to carry himself as a true professional. On the pitch as well, always improving. Perhaps this year the numbers haven't been there. Perhaps he has struggled time in and time out. But I think that's normal. It's normal for a majority of youngsters who are trying to make that climb. A change of scenery can do wonders for any player, and for a player like Cade, who's more than motivated to go to Europe and make a name for himself. A change of scenery may pay large dividends for him, and it most certainly will pay dividends for the Earthquakes when they get what I think will be a record transfer fee.
Well, Joel, it's been amazing to get a chance to talk to you again. Just for the fans again who may not know you quite as well, or have joined us in the past couple of years, Quakes Epicenter wouldn't be what it is today the Aftershock, I can guarantee you in its current form would not exist if it wasn't for you and Charles and the work that you guys did, starting Black and Azul and inviting Alex and I onto the show and kind of showing us the way as to how this type of format could work. And I think the fans have you to thank for a lot of things that they'll probably never know. The fans who enjoy this show, and more than anything, it's just really good to get a chance to see you. We did get a chance to see you in person, when I recently came to San Jose, but I always relish that opportunity because we don't get to do it very often. Thanks for stopping by today. Any final thoughts for the fans?
I'm rusty. I'm really, really rusty. Have lots of work to do in order to get back into my groove. And honestly, I owe it all to you, Jamon, to Alex, to Charles, Jason, and all those people, who helped me along the way in my journey as a soccer writer. And obviously to the readers, to those supporters who coupled their Earthquakes fandom with with my reporting. I have nothing but gratitude, for everyone who's watching this and for everyone who ever supported my work. I promise to be back at some capacity. I'm not entirely sure what that looks like yet. But more than willing to collaborate with you, Jamon, with the rest of the crew when possible, and to be a bit more present, in this new Major League Soccer landscape with Messi on board. Again, the FOMO hit me really hard. I couldn't stay away from chiming in, whether my voice was going to be heard or not. I just wanted to put it out there, and so. Really, really glad that, Major League Soccer is turning this corner. It's obviously going to benefit not only Major League Soccer or Inter Miami, it's also going to benefit, clubs on this side of the coast, like the San Jose Earthquakes at large. And obviously most notably when they do make the trek to Northern California. And so really looking forward to that, and also really looking forward to see how the Earthquakes finish up the second half of the season.
It could be an interesting one, sitting in 5th place, Philadelphia on Saturday. Man, that's a big one. Even Luchi today is kind of, you could see there's a little bit of a, yeah, this is going to be a big game for us, a real big test. And they passed the LAFC test at home. Maybe they can pass the Philadelphia test as well. Right now, potential for a home playoff series in the sights, and we'll see how it goes. And nice to have you back in the saddle, whatever back in the saddle means to you, Joel. We're just excited to have you back in the soccer landscape in the Bay Area and in MLS in general. Good talking to you. Have a good rest of your day, man.
You too. Take care, Jamon.